Oh, yes. Uncle Drac is back. You thought I was gone, but no. No, just rebranding a little bit. And now, even as we speak, 15 satellites are moving into geosynchronous orbit, circling the Earth with my influence. Unless I am paid $100 billion, I will blanket every airwave, communication channel, and form of signal transmission with Shaw Brother Kung Fu movies 24/7, completely distracting the entire population of the world until my demands are met or society collapses, because everyone will be Kung Fu fight. Yes, Dicey. Yes, my good little dice bag of devouring. You know who the boss is. And soon, so will everyone else. Hello. I'm Scott Corum. Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. This is what matters to me. How am I going to do a reveal like this? Gotta throw a little bit of that dramatic flair in there. And Uncle Drac hasn't made an appearance for a while, and well, the whole supervillain shtick hasn't nearly been played out enough for me. So here's me playing out my supervillain shtick, and trying to find the right settings on my my influencer ring light. There we go. Let's see if I can. Man, they don't make these things for people as old as me to work, especially not there. There we go. That's the button. I'd rather not go blind while I'm doing my vlog. So, you may notice something different. I was going bald. I mean, technically, I guess I still am. Most of the hair will grow back. Some of it will not. Genetic thing. This happens on the my mother's side of the family. My grandfather went like this. And I got the good circulatory system from that side of the family. So I can't argue too much, but I was either going to get myself a nice Patrick Stewart fringe, which my grandfather went out like that. I can't, I don't think I could do that. But I decided to take a little control over my appearance and how things are going to go in that area. And it feels good to take some control over aspects of one's life from time to time. It makes you, it gives you the suitable illusion that you have control in other aspects of your life. So, hey, let's hope that goes well. I've had a lot of great suggestions for stuff to do in these vlogs over the past few weeks. Very pleased to get a lot of those. One particular I'm going to be doing coming up on the culture of food and drink and gaming at the table, which is just I've covered that before, but I will cover it again because that's a really great. I've got the D&D cookbook over my shoulder back there, and I think that's a great topic to cover. But today, I thought I'd talk a little bit about villains and supervillains, because there's a difference. A villain, at its most base level, is a character whose evil intentions and actions drive the plot forward for the hero. They cause the hero to have something to do. They are the main source of opposition and antagonism for the hero of the story. And that's very simple. It's very basic. It doesn't have to be anything complicated or overly dramatic. Villains can be very simple things and very subtle things. Supervillains, on the other hand, cannot. Supervillains are, by their definition, overly complicated, excessively dramatic. They're extra. You know a supervillain by their name. Good or bad, you know them by their name. Auric Goldfinger, supervillain. It was born with that name, was going to be a supervillain. That's just how there's no way Goldfinger could have not been a supervillain. He's not a good supervillain. In my opinion, as you may be aware, Auric Goldfinger is one of the worst supervillains ever to be put on display. But he's got the scope of a supervillain. His plans are grand and big and overly dramatic and overly complicated. He's got the style. His name became a brand. Everything he's got the gold gun, the gold boots, and the gold everything. Parodied so well by Mike Myers and Goldmember. Because I see Goldmember, I see a character that is every bit as subtle as Goldfinger was meant to be. From the movie Mystery Men, which if you haven't seen, you really need to see. It's a great movie. Casanova Frankenstein. I don't have to tell you anything else about that character. Casanova Frankenstein. That's a supervillain. Literally nothing else has to come out of my mouth. Jeffrey Rush played an amazing character. The characterization as he was played, phenomenal, wonderful, tremendous style. He had all the best gimmicks and gadgeteers and the technology, and he had the disco thing going for him in the background. So good, but the name alone carried that. Scaramanga, the man with the golden gun, supervillain. Even if he was a little obsessed with one secret agent, scope of his plans wasn't even all that bad. He was trying to create a new energy utility and was doing a really good job of it. Just went to some really terrible means to develop his venture capital. Granted, $1 million a shot, he was screwing over a lot less people than a lot of venture capitalists today. Supervillains have scope. They have a plan that has reach. What a villain does can affect as few as one person. A villain only has to affect the hero. A villain can be very personal. It's that one guy, that bully that drove you to overcome yourself or overcome your weaknesses and develop into something more heroic, more driven. A supervillain affects millions of people, a city, a country, the world, ideally. They are vast in their reach, tremendous in their influence. And when they hold a structure in their hands, they can rightly claim that it will crumble if they choose for it to, and use that power to exert influence, whether through extortion or political power. Emperor Palpatine, supervillain. Again, not always the best supervillain, but a supervillain. Little repetitive for a supervillain. Let's make one more extremely large structure that can destroy at the very minimum a planet, possibly more, at tremendous expense, bankrupting whole systems, and then use it to exert political power. And if it gets blown up, I'll build a bigger one. Supervillains can be more creative than that, but really don't have to. It's all about the size and the power and the name. Emperor Palpatine. Well, you've got Emperor in your name. You're halfway there. But even Darth Sidious. Shmi Palpatine wasn't as, yeah, he kind of needed the title. He needed the title, but once he had the title, Senator Palpatine, that could have worked. He could have gotten Supervillain just on Senator alone, but went for Emperor, and, well, we know how that worked out. So, a name and scope. They need style. Again, Casanova Frankenstein. The name alone has style, and Jeffrey Rush pulled off the supervillain at his lowest point in the film Mystery Men, where you see him in the asylum, begging for release because he's a reformed being, and then not being a reformed being at all. And going from that to the 1970s disco chic. And I don't think anyone but Jeffrey Rush could have pulled it off the way that he did. And it should have been ridiculous. And it was imposing. I don't know how much 1970s fashion you've seen. But oh my God. If you can be imposing in anything from the 1970s, you have got, you got something going for you there. That's a superpower in and of itself. Scope, style, name. Once you have the signature, the scope, and the style, you are dealing with a supervillain. It's not like dealing with a villain. A villain can, once you have overcome the villain, the person, you're done. There might be another villain down the line. That villain might come back, but that story arc is over when you've dealt with the person. Dealing with a supervillain means dealing with an organization. There are layers you have to get through. You have to not only dismantle the organization and the plan, but then you have to dismantle the villain. You can't just kill a supervillain. You can eventually kill a supervillain, but first you have to dismantle their appearance, their structure, their style. You have to deconstruct the villain, even just a little bit. You got to find out what makes the villain tick to break him. You don't kill a supervillain. You defuse a supervillain. You find what is driving them and remove it. Because until you do that, the supervillain is an unstoppable force. You find that thing. It's only when the supervillain realizes that they've been beaten conceptually that you can put a bullet in them, or a lightsaber, or what have you. All of that can happen in a moment, by the way. In the middle of the sword fight, the banter convinces the villain that they have not, in fact, won. They're gone. In the middle of the tremendous display of power, that one person is able to stand up and inform them that all of their power is derived from weakness, the villain realizes that they have fallen and they're broken. And whatever follows after that is almost a mercy to the supervillain. There's an amazing martial arts film called The Storm Riders. It is the most early 2000s thing I've ever seen, and I highly recommend it. Sonny Chiba, God rest his soul, played the Lord Conquer, one of the best cinematic villains of all time. If you've never seen him, you need to. And he got beaten. He got properly beaten. He set up the heroes of the film. He set them up to fail. He deliberately set them up to fail. He raised them both from childhood, and he taught them the martial arts that they knew. He taught them all the martial arts that they knew, but he didn't teach them all the martial arts that he knew. He deliberately did not teach them any sword forms, so that his sword form would always be superior. And they came back and they beat him after having that crushing disadvantage. But they didn't kill him, because justice came too swift if Conquer died. They broke him and left him in that state. He was never coming back from that. He was driven insane by the fact he lost. And they left him in that state, which was a cruel fate for the supervillain and not something your traditional hero would do. But these heroes, yeah, he earned it. He absolutely earned that miserable, pitiful existence of being a broken, beaten shell of his former self. Sometimes you don't kill the villain. So, signature, style, reach, scope, and there's a way to diffuse them. Like in most dramatic presentations of demolitions work, again, rarely realistic as presented, but in most of those, there's a very specific way to diffuse the bomb. You have to clip this wire or clip that wire or disconnect that before you disconnect this. And villains all have a very specific way of being diffused. They've all got that weakness, that one brick at the bottom you got to figure out to pull so that the rest of the house falls on top of it. And once you've got those ingredients, you have someone, they've got to do stuff that motivates the party. There is still a villain in that whole thing. Your RPG supervillain needs to motivate the party. Needs to be doing stuff that has to be stopped. Needs to have evil intentions that are going to drive the plot. And then scope, signature, style, and when the organization's been dismantled and the lieutenants have been killed, and you get to that final confrontation and the supervillain seems unbeatable, then hopefully people have picked up on the clues, they've made their insight checks, and they've figured out what drives that villain and what has that villain at his heart, and you pull his heart out. And you win. Because that's the thing about a supervillain. Where your average villain, maybe you win, maybe you don't, maybe it's a moral victory. Supervillain gets beaten. A supervillain gives you a win scenario. One win scenario maybe out of one chance out of 9,426,000, but one chance. When you hit that one chance, you win. There is no ambiguity. There is no moral quandary. There is no, but did we really win? No, you win. You pay off. That is when the game master has to pay off, because beating a supervillain is a payoff moment. That is hitting the jackpot. That is when you collect your treasure, get your promotions, level up, and go home. I love me a supervillain. You can't have that all the time. Sometimes you just need a regular villain. Sometimes you have a handful of regular villains working for the supervillain. But when you have that supervillain, don't go halfway. Go all out. Make him fabulous and fantastic and absolutely make him lovable in how absolutely stylish and evil they are, and let him get beaten. Let him get beaten, or let him be the new party patron, because it's going to go one way or the other. I've seen it go both ways. They're both kind of awesome. Looking forward to seeing how it goes in your games. Well, people are starting up leaf blowers outside, so I'm probably going to stop my video now. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you did enjoy the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, why not? My channel is awesome. I invite you to hit the subscribe button. If you do, you probably want to hit the notification bell so you're alerted when my videos become available. I want to hear about your experiences with supervillains, whether you beat them, whether you joined them, how stylish those villains were. That, any subjects you'd like to hear me cover, questions you'd like to hear me answer, leave me a comment. I will love getting your comments. You will love leaving me one. If you would like to contribute to the channel in a more substantial manner, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum. Consider donating. Absolutely anything helps. Allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me. I'll see you next time on the next Matters of Decorum.